Old, abandoned houses dot the Northland. They sit half lost in trees along forgotten gravel roads, the kind of places people drive past without seeing. Most have been looted of anything valuable and left to rot, the crystal doorknobs and beautiful fixtures long gone. Yet one thing these old houses still contain is their wallpaper. Yes, I know that may sound boring, but indulge me. This time it was anything but. It started innocently enough when Chucky and I mapped out a handful of old houses around La Crosse, Wisconsin. We had been salvaging wallpaper samples for well-known regional museums. You might have visited some if you are from the area. Laborious work that paid little but gave us something to do. That October morning, we had already obtained samples from 3 houses and packed the car trunk with curled patterns of florals and argyles. Our last stop, the 4th house, waded down an overgrown dirt track that met a gravel road and disappeared toward the Black River. We parked where the ruts turned to mud and walked the rest of the way. The air smelled of leaf rot and water. The house came into view behind a meadow, a narrow rectangle with a steep roof, green moss covering one side. Paint had long since peeled away, and we saw that no lines ran to it, no phone, no power. "Abandoned 80 years at least," Chucky said, brushing a hand along the siding. I nodded, feeling the weight of the silence pressing out from the structure itself. Inside, the air was thick and still. Dust motes hung unmoving in weak light that filtered through torn curtains and miraculously unbroken windows. A stained handmade table sat in the kitchen beside a deep wooden sink with a hand pump for a faucet. A few broken chairs leaned against the wall, and on the shelves above the sink sat jars cloudy with age. "This place hasn't been hit by collectors," I said. "Doors still have knobs and hinges." Chucky smiled. "We hit the jackpot, man." He found a patch of wallpaper that hadn't peeled away, a simple floral print dulled by decades. He measured and cut a 10-inch square while I walked the rooms, my footsteps stirring little spirals of dust. But the quiet in that house wasn't peaceful. It was like it was holding its breath. Back in the kitchen, I bent to study a small cup on the shelf. That was when I heard it, a quiet but distinct sound, a warbling scree. It rose and fell like metal bending under pressure. I froze. "Chucky, do you hear that?" From somewhere above came his muffled answer. "Yes, I do. And what the heck is that?" The sound stopped. I turned toward the table looking for a source. For an instant the dust blurred my sight, then cleared, and the table no longer looked abandoned. It was clean and new, set with 4 china plates, silverware, and a steaming Dutch oven in the center. The smell of stew filled the air, rich and savory. A loaf of bread lay wrapped in muslin. Small tin cups of milk sat beside 2 of the plates. It felt like stepping into a photograph that had suddenly come alive. The light was warmer, gentler. I could have believed that a family would walk in any moment and take their seats. Yet my stomach tightened. The comfort of it was wrong, too deliberate, like the room was pretending. I heard Chucky coming down the stairs, his boots careful on each rotted step. When he turned the corner and saw the table, his eyes went wide. "What's happening?" he asked quietly. "I don't know, but don't move," I whispered, not knowing what else to say. "We have to eventually move." He broke off a small piece of the wallpaper slab he was holding and tossed it onto the table. The fragment slid across the polished surface, faintly scratching as it went. When it stopped, the scene blinked. The table aged before our eyes. The plates cracked, the food blackened into stains, the muslin sagged and turned into dust. There was something else, something that was picked up by the nose, tongue, skin, ears, and soul. It carried a smell that wasn't exactly decay, but something older, river mud, heavy sulfur, and a taste that clung to the back of the tongue that words cannot describe. Every sense rebelled. My body knew before my mind did that we shouldn't be there. My chest tightened, and my knees weakened. and I felt the air itself press closer. Something elementally evil had been there, so much so that it polluted the very space it occupied through time itself. So much so that time twisted around it, revealing its malevolence. Our bodies sensed and objected to it at the most basic level. This place didn't have the usual infestations of birds, bats, raccoons, or even insects because it was afflicted. The house didn't tolerate life. It had been touched by true evil, not man's version, but true evil, the kind that existed before the world was even a cinder in the solar system. The air trembled faintly, and the scree returned, louder this time, vibrating in my bones. It was as if the house were breathing in, preparing something for us that I couldn't even comprehend, something humans haven't named yet. I wanted to speak, but my body had already chosen to escape. My legs moved first, on their own. Chucky followed without a word. We ran straight to the door and out into the gray light, down the path to the car. My breath came shallow, my stomach heaving. The sound faded behind us but didn't vanish. It hung in my ears like the pressure change you get when driving over the high Wisconsin hills. When we reached the car, I bent over the hood and dry heaved. Chucky stood beside me, white-faced, also leaning on the car. I pulled the square of wallpaper from my pack, looked at the faded roses, and flung it toward the trees. It was a good sample, but the thought of keeping anything from that house was unthinkable. It turned once in the air and disappeared into the weeds. Despite the daylight, the color of the world had drained. The trees looked pale, and the wind had died down to nothing. I started the engine. Neither of us spoke on the drive back. Only later, when I tried to sleep, did I understand what had happened in that house. We hadn't seen a haunting. We had stepped into something where the rules of time applied differently. Evil. There wasn't a presence that entered rooms. It was in the space of the room itself, woven through the walls and paper, older than the land beneath it. You might think reading this, why didn't you grab something from that table? Or take the Dutch oven, or even the wallpaper itself for proof? But that's not how a person acts when faced with something truly evil. Contact with that place was odious to the very fiber of my being. My body fought it the only way it could, by leaving. It has been years now, but the house still appears in my dreams. I walk up the same dirt path while my mind screams at my legs to stop. I pray for the door to be closed and locked, but it is always open. I step inside, and I know the air will still be thick and unwholesome. Somewhere behind the walls, I hear that faint, hair-raising sound, the slow, warbling scree, and I know that time there never moved on. And I have to live with the fact that if evil ever enters that space again and opens its eyes, it will see me, because that's how time works in that place. If you like what you've seen, please like and subscribe.